Hello, good evening and welcome to News at 10 with me, Martin Esiedudate. We start with the local news highlights. A new power distribution company, PDS, has officially taken over from ECG as the electricity service provider after missing the February 1 deadline. The takeover takes effect from Friday, 1st March 2019 and will mark the beginning of the 20-year project of transforming the power distribution sector. The Police Criminal Investigative Department has invited the national chairman of the opposition NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, to assist in investigations. Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo's invitation is in respect of a leaked audio circulating on both social and traditional media, in which he is alleged to have made comments that have security implications for the nation. The New Patriotic Party has called for the resignation of the national chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, for comments he is alleged to have made in a leaked audio. NPP Communications Director Yao Boabinga Samoa at a news conference said Ofosu-Ampofo's comment is an indication that the NDC is arming its members to turn the party into a terrorist group. So those are the major news highlights here in Ghana. Let's go elsewhere around the world and find out what is trending. What are the big stories that the major news outlets are talking about? And you can see Donald Trump has had that all-important meeting with Kim Jong-un, and it says U.S. President Donald Trump has held a very special relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as they met in Vietnam for a second summit on Wednesday. Trump said he was satisfied with the pace of denuclearization talks, despite some criticism they were not moving quickly enough. And elsewhere, that banter between Pakistan and India has demanded the release of a fighter pilot shot down by Pakistani warplanes in a major escalation between the two nuclear powers over Kashmir. Video showing the pilot blindfolded and with blood on his face was shared by Pakistani's information ministry. India described the images as a vulgar display of an injured personnel. So those are some major stories around the world and in Ghana as well. We would want you to also let us know what your thoughts are on the key stories we'll be discussing this evening. However, it is time now for the big one. Well, before we go to that, though, another big story making rounds in the country has to do with the fact that ECG has been taking over. So the Power Distribution Services, PDS, has officially taken over from ECG as the electricity service provider after missing the February 1 deadline. The takeover take effect from the 1st of March 2019. Here is the Energy Minister, John Peter Amewu, speaking at a ceremony today in Accra.
And I therefore wish to encourage the local participants to demonstrate a high level of core competence. The challenges currently faced by the ECG, as you are all aware, include the following: suboptimal revenue collections at the burner tip, high electricity theft, high aggregate technical and commercial losses, overloading of equipment lines due to capacity constraints, weak feeders, and obsolete equipment, among others. If for some reason PDS, which we expect to come in and address some of this concern, will be repeating some of these challenges, or will leave some of these challenges undressed, then I don't see the rationale for us gathering here. The Ghanaians will therefore be given the opportunity to do it. If the losses will remain 25%, the power theft will continue to increase. The technical drive to change equipment will remain unchanged. Then it's better we take over our equipment and run it at the same level.
Elsewhere in the power sector, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, says electricity tariffs will remain unchanged until the end of the second quarter of 2019. PURC says maintaining electricity tariffs stems from critical emerging issues in the sector, which they expect will affect the final tariff setting. And we'll bring you that story later on. But before that, we have in studio Kojo Nsafo-Poku. He is an energy expert and would want to pick his thoughts on this takeover by PDS and how that fits into the bigger picture of the problems we've had with power and electricity in the country. Mr. Poku, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening and good evening to your viewers.
Right, to start with, there seemed to be a bigger expectation of this new company that has taken over ECG. Are these expectations justified? One would be that they need to reduce losses, financial and technical losses especially, and then also the fact that people are looking forward to they are ready to pay, but is the expectation justified in terms of the power and the consistency of the power they're going to be receiving? Okay.
What we should all be happy about is PDS is a company from Melina in Morocco company from Philippines. Now, what everybody is happy, like myself, is happy about is that we are giving ECG to a private company. We've always expected as consumers that private companies will give us better services than when it was run by government. So the expectation of Ghanaians is that customer services at the ECG centers will improve. We will see better services being rendered to us. When you do call for your meter or any other fault that you have, you are going to get improved services, improved response times. The issues of technical losses and commercial losses being reduced, those are at the back end. Customers like me and you might not see those, but what we would visually see of when we go to ECG customer centers, we expect to see a change in professionalism, how ECG customers will be trained to receive us better, to answer our queries better, some level of professionalism within ECG and innovation of products. They would bring on new products we expect. But I think that the most important part, which the minister highlighted earlier, is that they are going to spend about $100 million a year for 5 years. Those investments, which is needed in the ECG setup, will help change the old and obsolete machines that they have to them to be able to reduce the technical losses, which is when electricity is put on the lines, it dissipates and go away. Right. Those will be stopped. Then they will bring in machinery so that they can detect illegal connections and stuff like that. So as customers, what I would want to see when I go to ECG office is the innovation, friendly customer, because they'll be paid better and they'll be trained to receive us as a private company will be taught to do.
What timelines do you think we should be looking at as customers? Again, they have a 20-year mandate to take over. Should it be next week, next month? At what point should we start having the consistent power and then also start experiencing these customer services you're talking about?
Well, I would give them a year.
A year?
Yes, because bear in mind, what the whole arrangement is that everybody who works for ECG, not everybody, most of the people who work for ECG are being transferred to the PDS, which is the Power Distribution Service Company. Restructured ECG is still going to be there, but it's going to maintain a very skeletal staff, a very small amount of staff to handle certain aspect of ECG work. But most of the staff that have been transferred to Public Distribution Service Company will be trained, will be taken through numerous training. We don't expect them, we are Ghanaians, we have a certain set ways of doing things. We don't expect that to change overnight. So I personally want to give them a year. Then after 1 year, we will now go back, and that's when the first review is going to happen. Then we'll see what have they done within the year in terms of transferring the manpower that was given to them, transferring the equipment that was given to them. So those are some of the things that, for me, I will give them a year to now see what is going to happen after the 1 year.
There are those who are saying 20 years seem to be quite a long time before they hand over back to the state. Do you think that they'll be able to put in place systems and policies that when they finally do hand over to the Ghanaian government, those systems will be in place irrespective of whichever government is in power, whichever new administration takes over the running of the power sector in Ghana?
Yes, before, if you quite remember, it was 25 years.
Yeah.
And the likes of me and Kwame Jantua and Kofi Bento, we formed a group called COSECA, and we're able to now coordinate with government to bring it down to 20 years. Now, 20 years enough because the amount of investment that's going to be made. Somebody is going to put $500 million into an industry. You should give him time to be able to recoup some of that investment. Now, most important is that over the years, they will be making substantive investment. So we expect that in 20 years, by the time they will hand it back to Ghana, we will have a much improved ECG or the network that was given to them today. When we get it back in 20 years' time, it will be a much improved system. Bear in mind, there's going to be a yearly review. Okay. Then after the 5 years, there's going to be a major review. If it is found that they are not doing what the agreement says they should do, we'll take back ECG.
Right. There certainly is an expectation not only from the final consumer, but then government as well. How do you think they can manage the agreement so there would not be any form of interference whatsoever? Well,
government can't interfere. They've given it over. My only challenge with the arrangement as it is now is government taking on the liability to pay the bills of certain ring-fence ministries. That's the only challenge I have. And we've been saying this over and over, that as it is now, government inability to pay certain bills to ECG is what has caused ECG's problems. Now, handing over ECG to PDS, we have expected government to take its hands off it, let PDS meter, prepaid meters, all the ministries, schools, hospitals, but government in its wisdom is saying that, look, I can't allow schools, hospitals, barracks, and the police stations to be metered. I am responsible for paying those bills, and I am prepared to pay those bills. So we are hoping that now that it is no longer government-run and it's private-run, government will stick to its word and pay the bills so that the PDS as it is will be profitable going forward. That
has been a major bane for the power sector over the years, because former President John Evans Atta Mills even said that all state institutions, especially government departments and agencies, should be metered so they can now have to pay for the power they consume. If that has not been done, how do you think it plays into this? And what challenge do you think this new company taking over are going to face in handling this particular case?
I think there is an undertaking which government gave. So more like a guarantee which government gave to the new company. Now, it's 5 ministries. The Office of the President, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and I think Ministry of Defense.
Right.
Okay? And when they say the ministries, it's not just the ministry buildings, but all the departments and agencies. So then education, it goes to the schools, health, it goes to the hospitals and all that. I think they are strategic institutions that maybe government in its wisdom does not want a situation where, look, Kolebu's lights are turned off because they don't have sufficient money, because government still have stake to make sure that people are seen to in those instances. But for us, the most important thing is that government should do well, should find the money to pay the bills. If not, PDS will run losses because these institutions that government has ring-fenced do build up a lot of bills.
Right.
And the problem in the energy sector, where ECG owes VRA, VRA owes Ghana Gas, and Ghana Gas owes Nigeria and all that, is because government doesn't pay its bills. So we are hoping that going forward, with the new company in, government will behave better and pay its bills.
Okay. We'd have to leave it here for now. Thank you very much, Kojo Nsafa Poku. He is an energy expert, and we've been analyzing the takeover of the ECG by PDS. Today we are ending news at 10:15 because we are bringing you the exclusive coverage of Anas Aremayal's video about the Galamsey menace, where some key figures in certain positions have been fingered. Stay with TV3 and watch this. My name is Martin Esiedudati. Thank you very much for your time. Bye for now.